Adjunct Professor Moran, Microeconomics, 112. We're discussing business competition. From the best for society, pure competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly and monopoly, the worst for society. As we get from the best to the worst, prices will increase and quantity will decrease. So we've discussed the best and the worst, pure competition, monopoly. Now we're going to talk about the intermediate ones, monopolistic competition and oligopoly, in the next couple sessions. Monopolistic competition is an oxymoron. If there's a monopoly, how can there be competition? If there's competition, how can there be monopoly? Well, this is like your pizzerias. There are many producers, all producing something slightly different. So you may have your favorite pizzeria, but if they and so that gives that company a monopoly because you have a preference for that. But if they charge too much, then competition kicks in and you'll go someplace else for your pizza. So the characteristics of a monopolistically competitive market are a large number of independent sellers. But they're selling differentiated products. It can be real or imagined, the difference. So if a gas company can convince you that their gas has detergents and it does a better job of cleaning the engine, whether it can or can't, if it creates that perception in a consumer's mind, then the product is considered differentiation. Even if you're selling exactly the same thing, but in two different locations, and a consumer prefers one location over another, then even though the products themselves are identical, to an economist, those are differentiated products. For a monopolistic competitive industry, there has to be no barriers to entry, like pure competition. It's easy to enter and to exit. Enter if there's an economic profit going on, exit if there's an economic loss. Typically, the firms are small. The economies of scale are small and capital requirements low. That's what makes it easy to enter. Advertising is a characteristic of companies that sell a differentiated product. No one advertises a product that's identical to the competitors because although you may create a demand for the product, you may not incur the benefit or the sale, even though you paid for the advertisement, if the consumer buys your competitor's product, which is identical. So as soon as you see advertising, you should be thinking imperfect competitors, either monopolistic competition, oligopoly, or monopoly. Output and price and quantity combinations for monopolistic competition. We need to find marginal revenue equals marginal cost. For a pure competitor, which has a perfectly elastic demand curve, price equals marginal revenue, which equals average revenue, which equals demand, and you set all that equal to marginal cost. And in the long run, that'll all equal average total cost min. But because these are imperfect competitors, they see in part or total the market demand curve. So this company's demand curve will be negatively sloped. In order to sell more, this company has to lower its price. And when it lowers its price, it has to lower its price on not just the last one sold, but all the prior ones, which means there's a split between marginal revenue and price. So this identity breaks down for all imperfect competitors, and you have to decide whether the firm is better off setting price equal to marginal cost or marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. And it turns out these firms will profit max, loss min, or shut down the best combination for a firm given its cost curves when marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, not price. In order to determine economic profit or loss, keep in mind that we want to take price minus average total cost, profit or loss per unit, times the quantity. That's one way of calculating it. There are three scenarios: a short-run profit, a short-run loss, or shutdown. So, profit max, loss min, and shutdown. Okay. What's going on here is that what's going to happen as a result of no barriers to entry. I'm going to draw this curve again, so we have the market supply and demand over here. And this is the individual firm. And we're going to draw this inverted V indicating price and demand, the split between marginal revenue and price, and a check mark for marginal cost. If this is the price set by the market, then we come over here until price equals marginal cost, taken from the market, and we drop in a cost curve, average total cost, and we'd see that at this price quantity combination, price here, average total cost here, this firm is making an economic profit per unit of this amount on this many units. So this would be its economic profit. But in the long run, because there are no barriers to entry, the supply curve is going to shift to the right as more firms enter the industry. And what that means is more firms will enter the industry, and this firm's V will shift this way as each firm gets a smaller part of the overall industry demand, because there are more firms joining the industry, which is counterintuitive. So this V would shift like this. Over here someplace would be the price quantity combination. Not exactly, but that's a little bit. And in the short, if there's a loss in the short run, then that's going to look like this. Marginal cost equals marginal revenue, price. Supply and demand. That's where this firm gets its price from. And if this is a loss, then the average cost curve has to look something like this. Average total cost. And at this price quantity combination, go up until you hit the average total cost, and this firm is losing this much money on this many units, and this would be its economic loss. So firms would leave the industry. And all firms are leaving the industry, surviving firms get more business, and this curve is going to shift over this way somewhere, like that. Okay, and then there's a long-run equilibrium, where this economic profit and loss will be eliminated, and there will be a break-even where price equals average total cost, but it won't be average total cost minimum as it is in pure competition. The demand curve for monopolistically competitive industries is more elastic than pure monopoly, but less elastic than pure competition. It's highly but not perfectly elastic, because there are competitors and substitutes, if you remember our discussion of elasticity. Okay, monopolistic competition and efficiency. Society's goal is the triple equality between price, marginal cost, and average total cost min. Price and marginal cost give us allocative efficiency, the mix of goods and services most desired by society. The price is coming from the market, and it's sending a signal to the individual firms based on how many of them there are to produce a certain amount. And if the firm doesn't produce that, it's either giving up profit or reducing its profit by incurring loss on marginal units. So it'll produce where price equals marginal cost. And price and average total cost min is productive efficiency. Least cost method of production. Nothing says least cost like average total cost min. But in a monopolistically competitive industry, as well as oligopoly monopoly, all imperfect competitors, you will neither achieve productive nor allocative efficiency. In addition, because there will be excess capacity compared to product quantity demanded by the market. Demand will not intersect at average total cost minimum. If the monopolist takes full advantage of capacity to produce average total cost minimum, he'll drive down his price and produce more quantity. Instead, he'll restrict quantity to drive up price. And we're going to show that by analyzing where average total cost is in relation to marginal revenue and marginal cost. If price is not equal to average total cost min, if each firm produced more and more efficiently average total cost min, then it would be fewer firms. And that would free up resources to other uses, which was good for society. But instead, we won't be producing average total cost min. We're not going to achieve allocative efficiency either. By restricting output to marginal cost equals marginal revenue, price is higher than at price equals marginal cost. Since output is not made up to price equals marginal cost, then the output society desires is not produced. Society will want more output than the imperfect competitor will produce. And that represents an under-allocation of resources, higher prices and lower output. So none of the imperfect competitors result in allocated or productive efficiency. Okay, so here's an example of short-run profit for a monopolistically competitive industry. The curves are very much like the monopolist ones we did in the last unit. So here's price equals demand. Here's marginal revenue. Average total cost, marginal cost. Find marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. Go down to get quantity. Go up to get price from the demand line. And then go over to read that price. So now we want to determine if this firm is profit maximizing, loss minimizing, or shutting down. And you can see that price, at this quantity, price is greater than average total cost. So this firm is profit maximizing. Profit of this much per unit on this many units. So you would subtract average total cost from price, profit per unit, multiply it by the number of units, and that would give you the area of this rectangle and its economic profit. It's getting this price from the industry. Okay. Now, a loss, here we have average total cost, marginal cost, price equals demand, marginal revenue. So again, we find marginal cost equals marginal revenue, that intersection. Go up until you hit the price line. Here's the price. In this example, average total cost is higher. Keep going to the average total cost. This firm is losing this much money on this many units. Length times width gives you the area of a rectangle. This is this firm's economic loss. This is going to encourage firms to enter the industry, and the supply curve will shift this way. The overall supply in the market will increase because there are more competitors. Each individual firm will be supplying a smaller part, and these curves will shift to the left. Represent each firm having a smaller share because of increased competition, because of more firms in the industry. Here, firms will have to leave the industry. So they took the price from the industry, and if the price were here, firms are going to leave the industry, S1 to S2, and although there are fewer firms in the industry and the overall quantity in the market is falling because there's less competition, each individual surviving firm will supply more, and these curves will shift this way. Until again you find marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Didn't shift enough to eliminate the loss in this example, but eventually it will shift far enough to eliminate the loss, perhaps over here. Now at marginal revenue equals marginal cost, the firm has an economic profit. So that would be a long-run adjustment from loss to profit. But in the long run, there'll be neither an economic loss nor an economic profit. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Go up until you find price. From the price equals demand line. And this is the average total cost curve, and notice that will be a tangent point in the long run. So price equal average total cost means there's no economic profit and no economic loss. There is a normal profit though, an amount sufficient to induce a person from a wage job into, and as an entrepreneur, into this line of work. So here would be the quantity for the monopolistic competitor. So again, average total cost, yes. So in the long run, price equals average total cost, but not min. Min, again, all these average total and average variable cost curves minimize where they cross marginal cost. And this happens before that. Now, if we look at this firm and say it were in fact purely competitive, then it would be producing where price equals marginal cost, not marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And that would be over here. And society, allocated efficiency, if we had pure competition, we'd be producing here at a lower price. So monopolistic competition gives us higher prices and reduced quantity, and not average total cost min. So this is not productive efficiency because it's not min. And this is not allocative efficiency because it's not price equals, because it's not instead he's producing here. Which is not allocated efficiency because this is not average total cost min. Okay, so that's not productive efficiency. And this is not allocated efficiency because this is the mix of goods and services most desired by society, and the monopolistic competitor is only producing here. Okay, so we're going to practice with this a little bit on a few handouts in our next sessions.